Orville, where have you been? I was waiting for you to take me to the hairdresser's.
Sorry, I was at town hall. It took me a lot longer than I thought.
Oh, you didn't forget to pay our taxes, did you?
No, well, that's all taken care of. But remember when we got that last bill, we talked about whether we could afford to see your mother in Athol?
You know, maybe she can come here.
You playing that matchup game again?
Well, yeah. Why were you at town hall, for Pete's sake?
This is a list of contributors to Amherst for All.
Oh, I remember them. They want to study our town government so they can get rid of town meeting. I read their names from that article Scott Merzbach wrote about them and the steering committee, and we talked about their connections to the select board, town hall, the planning board.
Oh, yeah. Well, we were suspicious about who might be behind this move. See, state regs require groups like Amherst for All to keep a record of who gave them money and how much. They had to lay out some dough for those parties, remember, at the pub where they got people to come and sign up and go get signatures?
Yeah.
Well,
wait, this was the group out asking people to sign the petitions, which they said was to study town government. But they didn't tell people that they really wanted to get rid of town meeting and have a mayor and city council.
correct. Now, state regs say that anybody who makes a contribution over $50 has to have their name on the list.
Okay.
So there are 4 contributions of more than $50. This guy, Gavin Anderson, gave 100, and Jeff Blaustein gave 75. Both are town meeting members. Guess who the other 2 were?
Planning board members?
No, but pretty close, you might say. W.D. Coles and Jones Properties were the other 2 here. Both throw in $200. So $400 makes up a third of the $1,270 they got in total. Now, probably a lot of people threw in less than $50 so they wouldn't have their name on the list.
But Orville, why would the Jones family want to get rid of town meeting? After all, that family has a long history in this town, just like town meeting does.
Yeah, I know. Cinda Jones is the biggest property owner in Western Mass, maybe even in the state. And her grandfather was buying properties left and right. When he died, he divvied it up between his 2 sons, and now the grandchildren own those properties and those businesses.
Well, this seems like this would be small potatoes to her.
Well, except for one thing. Remember when I used to come home from town meeting all upset and because I didn't know what was really going on?
Yeah, well, I remember that, but I don't remember what it was over.
Well, in 2009, Jonathan Tucker, the guy from the planning department, he brought this proposal to town meeting that once again we expand the municipal parking district. Now, buildings in that district don't have to provide parking. Dormitories,
right.
though, for students, you got to provide parking.
Oh, I get it. I'm not as dumb as I thought. Maybe I was. So that meant that later, when the cube and the wedge came along, Archipelago didn't have to provide parking for people, mostly students,
Yep.
in those buildings.
Yep, correct. One thing I learned is these developers plan a number of years down the road. They're not month to month like you and me.
Ain't that the truth?
Get this, the second time the municipal parking district was expanded, Tucker ran it up along the north side of Kellogg Street. Why did he do that? Because Jones Properties has buildings and lots there. Not only that, the district was also extended along the north side of Triangle Street up to Cottage Street. Who's got property there?
Not the other $200 contributor.
Yep, W.D. Coles. See, no parking there. Unless, of course, they build housing for students, dormitories.
So why are they mad at town meeting?
Well, remember when we started encouraging other people to run for town meeting? Well, then we started turning down these crazy zoning regulations that they were trying to get us to pass.
How are the people on the Amherst for All steering committee involved in this?
Well, if they were in town meeting, they voted for those zoning changes, which we turned down. And now the town meeting is no longer willing to do that. What the planning board and the rest of town hall wants, their solution is to change the charter, take town meeting out of the picture entirely.
I see that the names that are listed here as the main people in the two businesses looks like the Jones Properties people come from Denny's side of that family, and W.D. Coles is from Paul's side.
Yep.
Cinda and Evan were Paul's kids.
Well, with Kurt Shumway and Barry Roberts getting in on the act, I can see where downtown Amherst is completely going to be done over. I mean, more than the carrot shops will be demolished.
Good grief. It's not like those guys need the money.
Now we're headed for a showdown. I mean, on March 29th, our friends and neighbors have a chance to vote no on this. And I'm hoping you're going to vote no, because I certainly am.
But listen, when I was over at Betty Lou's, she said something about Amherst for All doing something different.
Yep, they set up a new committee called Amherst for Change to handle this campaign, and now they're very clear what they want to do, quote, change town governance. All right, Gert, enough of this. Let me take you to the beauty parlor. Not that it's going to do a lot of good.
Oh, you're going to bed right after dinner, which you're not going to have.
After our conversation about what's going on, I went to town hall, got a lot of information, which is depicted here on this chart, and it gives us a picture of who's trying to do what. So what you have here are 7 realtors, developers, property owners who own over 58 properties in downtown Amherst. And what's their self-interest? To go up. There's no more property to buy here. If you want to maximize your earnings, you don't want to stick with 2-story, 2-family rentals. You want to put up 4- and 8-story buildings. And we have statements from in the paper from one of the Jones realtors about, I want to see 8-story buildings downtown. So when you look at this, you can see how densely populated these properties are in the sense of being in the hands of these 7 realtors. So what you have here, here's North Pleasant Street coming up to Amity Street, and here's Main Street. Well, this property is in blue is owned by Barry Roberts, who also owns the property on which the Amherst Cinema is. He owns the block which used to have Bart's and now and still has Panda East, and the block across the way has Miss Saigon, used to have Food for Thought. Then Barry also owns some rental properties in this area between Coles Lane and Halleck Street. But the big owner in this area is the dark green, which is Shumway, who owns the properties here, and on the other side of that street, he also owns this property up here, the University Lodge on the way to UMass. Now, the biggest property owner here is the Jones Properties, which you can see are clustered around Amity Street here, starting across from the library, the property that the People's Bank is located on. He also owns all these properties here on Kellogg Ave, which again, they extended the municipal parking zone to, so anything built there would not be required to have parking. This is that block that has Zana and Baku's. He also has the block along Prey Street. I forget that bar there, but then you've got the laundry place and you've got the Jones Properties here. Across the street, he's got property here and here on Triangle Street. Now the cousin, W.D. Jones, owns this property along Triangle Street and Cottage Street, where you have those medical buildings. And again, they're not even 2 stories, but if you put up 6, 8 stories here, there's a lot of money to be made. The light green properties are those of Archipelago, starting with the Cube down here, and what used to be the carrot shops, and then you have the Cheese Wedge. You also have Sherwadi's in on this because he's owned this property on Triangle Street, this one and 2 more, and then he owns Slackers. So you can see these people have a very, very big vested stake in not staying with the current character of the town, but instead going up. So instead we'll look like Harvard Square or Yonkers. And when you build up, you're not going to get entrepreneurs of the ilk that we had in the carriage shops. You're going to get corporate businesses. So what you have on the first floor of the Cheese Wedge or One Kendrick Place is Mass Mutual. That's who's rented it. That's who they would be trying to attract. So when we talk about attracting new businesses, they're talking about corporate ones, which have to be able to pay for the price of building up those whole new edifices.